He's volunteering.
Let's see, who else wants to volunteer? Sadie's back there jumping around. I tell you what, I have an idea. Why don't Sadie volunteer? I'm going to ask questions during the process, so you don't mind, do you? We're going to ask questions during the process so you can understand where we're going with this and what we're trying to accomplish and how we get to where we're going. Okay? I want to make it crystal clear by the time we get through the session what happened. And if you don't know what happened, there'll be opportunities to ask questions after. How do we interview? How's the weather?
Great. With divine listening.
Divine listening. Now, it could be divine to ask the weather, but chances are if there's not a hurricane outside, then the weather is not going to be an issue, usually. All distractions are off, cell phones are off, there's a sign on the door, do not disturb, whatever. Make sure that you're in a place where you're not going to be where a whole lot of traffic is going by. Although I've done sessions in the middle of crowded places, it's just a little strange. Usually it's with my wife, she'll be sticking out her arm and say, test me on this, I'm going to do a session real quick. And then everybody walking by sort of looking at us like that. But usually you want a private place where you're doing a session where you won't be disturbed and things are not going to be happening that are unpredictable. Now that we've established that, what's next?
Questions.
Yeah, it's called divine listening. And I put down there 5 questions. And I also mentioned that these questions will permeate both the interview and the discovery phase. And it's a general rule, 5 questions. This is not laid down specifically. I'll just use the examples. What's going on, Sedi? And I'm going to speed it up with Sedi so you can see how the progression goes. What seems to be something that's blocking you right now?
Not being heard.
Okay. Why are you not being heard?
It probably goes back to childhood where I wasn't heard.
Okay. Why do you think it was that you weren't heard in childhood?
I wasn't heard.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Well, one of the things I know is my father said he was going to treat us all the same.
Aha. Why do you think that was? Why do you think he made that decision?
He did say, because he said that because there were 3 of us, he heard that the youngest is usually the brat of the family, and he was going to make sure that it never happened. So I know that gave much feedback. And so he said, no, I'm not the brat.
Okay.
I'm the oldest.
Okay.
So I know that's why he said he wanted to treat us all the same.
Okay. So how did you feel when you made that decision? Or when he was acting on that decision?
Not seeing me, because I'm the only girl.
So you felt treated like one of the boys?
Absolutely. And I was dressed like one of them as well.
So he was going to treat everybody the same and treat them all as boys. Right. Okay. So that's, as far as the interview goes, that's pretty, that gives me a pretty good idea. Everybody see how I got there.
I also heard you ask in session notes before, what do you want to see happen?
Right. Well, that's going to borderline when we get into discovery. Pretty much.
So that's
when we start transitioning.
Okay.
What do you want to see? What's something that you can say that if this is true, then this will no longer be a problem. That's when you start formulating discovery. You're
so
starting
is that
to
a discovery question, or would that come at the end of the interview?
It's a transitional question between interview and discovery. I could make a decision and say it's one or the other. If I were to make a decision, it would be discovery. Because in the interview, in divine listening, you're simply listening. You're uncovering. You're not questioning. You're not doing anything other than listening. During discover, you're starting to put together some thoughts that relate to one another, that pool a lot of these experiences and thoughts and statements together in such a way that something can be discovered from those. So the interview essentially was asking her the 5 whys. Now I did throw in a how one there because it's not strictly whys, but it's questions like, how did you feel when that happened? You know, my name is Sedi. I'll say, well, why? I say, well, because my parents call me Sedi. Well, why? Why did they do that? Well, because that's the name they heard from such and such. Why? You know what I'm saying? It's just sort of, what it does is it stimulates the thought process so they can go beyond the superficial and get a little deeper than where they would normally go. Because people will answer based on what you ask. Well, how's it going today, Sadie?
Great.
See? There's no need to dig or do anything, is there? There's nothing to change. She's great. If I accepted that as truth, what would logical soul be like? Everything's great. Let's do affirmations. We're all great. Response most Europeans give is they go beyond the surface. And so when we're going beyond the surface, where are we going? And we're not looking to criticize, by the way, because a lot of people see that as, well, I don't want to get into it because then I'll feel criticized or ashamed or humiliated or embarrassed or something. You know, they don't want to reveal themselves to other people, so they just say, fine. In logical soul session, hopefully you set an environment where the person feels safe, that it's okay to say things to me because I'm not going to judge you. This is between you and me. I'm here to help facilitate something in your life that, there's a certain element of trust. And so you want to make sure you establish that trust early and often so that people can feel confident in trusting you, opening up to you. So you didn't feel heard?
I think what the other words was valued, or I remember the incident we worked through, but my father not believing me, so I'm not sure, because that's coming up today as being heard. We work on something similar to that.
Right. This is a layer of that.
This is
it's another layer.
Yeah.
And that'll happen quite a bit. Sometimes you'll be working on an issue, and something very similar to that issue may come up in another session. If that happens, chances are it's not the same issue, but it's a flavor of that issue or a layer of that issue, because we're talking about peeling the onion. Sometimes you have to peel the onion to get to the core. And in this case, she's got because this was such a trauma or something that's really been running her life for so long, there's still an issue going on related to that. It's not the same issue, but it's related in some way. Is that correct?
Right.
So how does that manifest? How does this new issue manifest itself in terms of feeling or results?
It manifests itself as me feeling if I'm not heard, then I don't matter. So the feeling. Because then it relates to then I'm not seen, which goes back to me being treated being the same.
Okay. What I'm hearing you say is that I need someone's permission in order to matter.
How it's showing up is I'm not given the time to state what I need to, which I think will be taken care of with the buddy system of just being heard,
Right.
Just someone to provide just space and time for me.
So you're saying if you received that space and time, you would feel heard and your life would work.
That would feel much better. Yes.
Okay. We've reached a point in the interview where she's not heard. She wants to be heard. She wants to set up circumstances where she is heard. That's why she likes the buddy system. And so I'm listening to these things without commentary. But what we're starting to do now is getting into the discovery phase, where we're starting to ask, well, what would it take in order to feel heard? Now, getting into discovery, you're also looking for a statement that is independent of what other people do. And let me clarify what I mean by that. If April would be a certain way, I would be happy. If April had blonde hair, I would be happy. I'm counting on somebody else to do something or to be a certain way in order to affect my happiness or my well-being. Does that generally work? Okay, why not?
We have tried it for hundreds of years.
Yeah, there you go. I was just going to say, but
We tried it for hundreds of years. We've created wars and crusades, and if those Muslims were only Christians, we'd be happy, right? So we had a crusade, and the Pope gave his blessings. We went out and killed everybody. That's great, It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Okay. On a personal level, we generally count on parents, spouses, children, other people around us to make us happy. Does that work? Are children always going to make us happy?
No.
fact, a lot of times just the opposite. Now, they can generally make us happy, but only because they're our kids, and we want the best for them. There's no hard and fast transition between interview and discovery, because a lot of times I'll get to discovery and then I may go back into interview just briefly in order to get more information so I can come back into discovery. I set up these steps so that you can understand the difference, but as far as actual usage, you're going to go back and forth a few times. But I'm just saying that sometimes you need to look a little deeper for the answers that will really transform people's lives. This is about Sedi, and what decision could you make that if this decision were true, you would feel heard no matter what the circumstances were?
Not need anyone's permission to just be, I guess,
Okay.
or anything.
Well, let me ask you a question before we get into that. What is the reason why being heard is important?
Because without me feeling heard, or what experience I felt I was invisible.
All right, so a decision is, I can be visible. Let me just take, okay, now we're into discovery, okay? This is where we start getting discovery, because she said some key things here. Remember she said invisible? And we asked the reason why she needs to be heard. Well, visibility comes up, okay? See, I choose to be visible to others.
I choose to be visible to others.
I can be visible to others.
I can be visible to others.
Oh. Okay. Does everybody see that? She chooses to be visible to others. She wants to be visible to others, but she feels like she needs others' permission to be visible, so therefore she needs to feel heard. That's what I'm picking up. I choose to be visible. That means
Yes,
you
I
want
got it.
to be. You
Right,
want
I
to be
got it.
heard, and you're militant about being heard.
Right, but saying I can be went
I
weak.
can be went weak.
So I can't.
I can't be visible.
Right, because of my feeling experience. Okay.
Right. In other words, it's linked to something else. In other words, if I'm heard, I can be visible.
If I'm heard, I can be visible.
Oh. Yeah. See, that's a linked decision.
Okay.
You with me?
Yes, but no, I can't.
Is choosing to be visible saying what you want, and can be visible being like, I know how to be?
Okay. Choosing to be visible means you're making a decision to be visible. You have made the decision to be visible. There's no interference with that. No, she wants to be visible.
Right, but I'm just trying to make sure I understand the difference between
Right.
choosing
Okay.
and can.
Yeah, she wants to be visible. When you say I can be visible, that's essentially an ability to be visible, either with permission or without permission. We're not making that distinction. So her definition is I can't be visible. That's her decision. I can't be visible. In other words, there's a need. There's a need to be visible because she doesn't have it, does she? When you don't have something, do you need it? Not always, but usually. In other words, if I don't have water, do I need water? If I'm constantly dying of thirst, I might muscle test. I can have water. I'm dying. I'm dying of thirst. I can't have. I choose to have water. Yeah. you know what I'm saying? But if you're in the desert, I can have water. No, there's no water there, so we go weak.
Choosing to be visible, that's the conscious one?
No, it's both.
No, it's
both.
both. Every time, but keep this in mind, and this is an important distinction. Every time you're muscle testing, you're talking to your subconscious being.
Every time.
Right.
Every time you're muscle test, this is the voice of your subconscious being. And I call it a being, not mind, because it involves more than just your mind. It involves your heart, your whole being.
Okay.
It's a being that dwells within you along with your conscious mind, or uhane. Understanding this model is helpful to understanding what's going on during the logical soul sessions. Connie, mental self, conscious mind, the voluntary muscles, and decisions. Okay? Crucial. Okay? Who's in charge of decisions? Who's the captain of the ship? The conscious mind, right? Conscious mind. Jeff, make a decision to stand up. Okay, well, he may make a decision to stand up, but he's not standing up, which is fine. Okay, because he's making a decision not to stand up. In other words, I didn't make the decision for him. He made the decision to not stand up. Somebody doesn't have to make your decisions. You make the decision. Whereas the low self, that's why hypnosis works. If you're into hypnosis and I tell you to make a decision to be a chicken, you're going to start prancing around the room like a chicken because you don't have the ability to make a decision one way or the other. Interesting point I'm bringing up here. Most people go through life subconsciously. Most people are affected by the media, by the politicians, by the rulers, by everybody around them, family, ancestors, you name it. This is a society of people who have been hypnotized from day one. We've all been hypnotized. We don't know how to make decisions. We're living subconsciously throughout our lives. When I'm suggesting that you also have a conscious mind, what I'm suggesting is that, guess what? When you were very little, 2 or 3 years old, you were making decisions too. Now, your conscious mind was not very developed, was it? But it was still making decisions. But most of those decisions were made by your parents, right? Or your mother, father, teacher, preacher. They're made by other people. So consequently, our conscious mind, the decisions that were made were not our own. In fact, some of those decisions were handed down epigenetically from generations before, and that's why the ancestor work is so powerful, because we're going back and allowing that, even that influence to be changed. Any questions on that? Yes.
I want to say something. When you tested Sedi, I choose to. And I think I want to clarify that. That means your conscious mind chooses, and it's supported by the inner charge.
Right.
Okay? That's what I want.
Right.
Thank you.
So when you're
Right.
strong, it means it's
If you're
supported.
saying, I choose to, and you're strong, that means consciously you're choosing. Subconsciously, you're also in alignment with that.
Thank you.
In other words, if you're strong, that means you're conscious.
Both.
If you're strong muscles meaning the ku and the kane are both in alignment together. Okay?
Okay.
So your speaking is the grown up, your body is the crew, and you see if it works.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
When you're making a statement and you're testing the involuntary muscles to see if they're kicking in, see, the voluntary muscles can raise your arm, not a problem. It's only with the help of the involuntary muscles kicking in that you can hold that muscle. Otherwise, the involuntary muscles kick out, guess what? A little bit of weakness. Okay? If they kick out a lot, then you're going to get weak real fast.